All right, week 9, day 3. Today I did my dynamic warm-up again. I had my front squats for a 5x5, chin-ups for a 5x5, and a close grip bench for a 5x5. I'm gonna try to continue to do just like one more little review, because I know that we said that we will probably end up covering new content next week, even though we're doing the oral exams. So use this last kind of Friday as one last kind of quick glance over everything we've learned in this modules. So I know I did all the way up to like electrical impulses of the heart on the video I did on Wednesday. So today, going over like respiratory, and one more little kind of talk over acid base. So, respiratory, inhalation, any type of inhalation like that, bringing in a whole bunch we consider as bulk flow. It's going to travel down through the windpipe all the way down into your lungs, going through the conductatory system and the respiratory system. Diaphragm, when we breathe in, is going to contract. So when it contracts, it kind of pushes down or bends down kind of in a way to open up to allow our lungs to expand, which is going to decrease that pressure. So with that pressure decrease, the pressure from the atmosphere will allow that air to flow into our lungs. When we breathe out, contracts, pushes our lungs up. That's going to push all of that CO2 out through exhalation. And then that's pretty much summative what we went over for respiratory physiology, other than like oxyhemoglobin dissociation curve, which has to do kind of a mix of respiratory and acid base. Back into the acid base, we have lactate, CO2, and ATP breakdown as our three producers of hydrogen. And then we have our intracellular buffers, which is going to be the NHE, or the sodium hydrogen exchanger, MCT, monocarboxylate transporter, and the MBC, or the sodium bicarbonate co-transporter. So NHE is going to take out a hydrogen, bring in a sodium ion. MCT is going to bring out a hydrogen and a lactate. Lactate will go back through the Cori cycle, through the liver, gluconeogenesis, back into glycolysis. Hydrogen, we're going to go into the blood. And then the MBC is going to bring in a sodium, take out a chlorine, bring in a bicarbonate. That bicarbonate will bind up with that hydrogen, and then be excreted back into the blood. That blood will then carry it all the way out to the lungs. In the blood, we have our proteins, which almost do nothing as far as buffering. We have our hemoglobin, specifically deoxyhemoglobin, which will bind up with CO2, or bind up CO2 with CO2 binding with the water, creating carbonic acid, and then into bicarbonate, which will then be out of the blood, into the bloodstream, which will then be used again to bring back into the blood. Once we get to the alveoli, go through the reverse process where we release CO2 in the alveoli. Any type of increase, demand in exercise intensity, amount of muscle mass involved, and duration of exercise are all things that will kind of manipulate the amount of hydrogen that's being produced, and how much we need to excrete out of it. Usually when we start to exercise, it causes a rightward shift on the oxyhemoglobin curve, because our pH is actually decreasing, our temperature is increasing, our acidity is increasing, which is the pH decrease. So therefore we shift to the right on that as we become a little bit more oxygen binding efficient, as well as CO2 excretion efficient. Our bodies do care more about excreting CO2 and getting rid of that acid than actually bringing oxygen in, which is why when we go through intense bouts of exercise, we start to kind of hyperventilate is because our body's worried about getting that CO2 out. We want to get that CO2 out rather than actually getting more oxygen in.